This special New Year's Eve message from President Joe Biden and Dr. Jill Biden.
As we enter the new year, I'm more optimistic about America's future than I've ever been. You know, at our best, we've taken every crisis we faced and turned it into an opportunity.
2023. What is the message you both have for everybody watching tonight?
Optimism. I've never been more optimistic about America in my whole career. You know, my dad used to have an expression. He'd say, family's the beginning, the middle, and the end.
As you look back and reflect on 2023, what sort of memories, highlights stand out for you?
Well, one of the big highlights stands out for me is my dad used to have an expression. He'd say, Joey, a job's about a lot more than the paycheck. It's about your dignity. It's about respect. So many people through the Midwest and in the center of the country, their factories are shipped overseas the last couple of times out, and they were losing hope and faith. So we brought a lot of jobs back to the United States. People are in a position to be able to make a living now.
Started the first hour with our New Year's resolutions from our audience, but now we've got one from Joe Biden. He says his New Year's resolution is, well, let's see.
What's your New Year's resolution, sir?
Next year.
Anything else?
That's the biggest one right now.
Do you say to come back?
Come back next year. And you know, we don't know if he means back to St. Croix for New Year or
back
maybe
to life?
Back to the White House,
back to
maybe.
consciousness.
It's an odd thing
Back
to
to
say.
the White House. Yeah, it could be
Odd
back
thing.
to that restaurant, that fancy restaurant he was at.
Back
It could
to
be
his-
anything.
Back
It
to
really
his
could.
nap. Oh, nobody knows. And that's the point. And a lot of
All right, guys. So you seen that? You heard that, okay? Joe Biden's New Year's resolution is to come back next year. Now, again, I have no idea what he means by that. I don't think Joe has any idea what he means by that. But what I do know is that when he was walking out of that fancy restaurant as he's hanging out with his wealthy friends in the Virgin Islands, I don't think they should have greeted him asking him about his New Year's resolutions. I actually think that they should have greeted him more like this. Right, again, I wish it was real, right? I wish it was real. But again, Joe Biden was spending his New Year's Eve in the Virgin Islands, okay, with Jill, okay? It doesn't seem like he was having a great time, but, you know, that's what he was doing. And then you have former President Trump at Mar-a-Lago seeming to have a much better time bringing in the New Year's. Take a look.
But I know most of the people in this room, and you're fantastic people, and we're going to have a fantastic year. We're going to have a great year. Our country has gone to hell, and we're going to turn it around. We're going to turn it around pretty quickly.
Yeah, so as you can see here, while Trump is bringing in the New Year's at Mar-a-Lago, they seem to be having a good time. Joe Biden, again, is spending his time with Jill in the Virgin Islands. He doesn't seem to be having as great of a time as they were having at Mar-a-Lago. But then again, there are reports from the White House that Joe Biden is working too hard and that they're trying to get him to stop working so hard because apparently he's such a hard worker, right? I mean, Joe Biden doesn't really have anything on his schedule for most of the day because he's not really running anything. But, you know, they say that Joe Biden's a hard worker and they're trying to get him to go to bed earlier, right? So Joe Biden was probably up way past his bedtime. So we know for sure that he's not going to be doing anything today, okay? But regardless, you know, Joe Biden and Trump are on a collision course to compete for the office of the President of the United States this year in 2024, which is probably going to be one of the craziest elections that we ever seen, right? It's probably going to be crazier than what happened in 2020. And it seems like MSNBC, even the mainstream liberal media, they are roasting Joe Biden for the terrible year that he's had, because this year, 2023, has probably been one of the worst years that a president has had in a long time. And that has led to his ratings, his approval ratings, being in the tank going into 2024. And it seems like that Joe Biden is set to lose in a landslide election to Trump, especially if the election were held today. So it's so bad that the mainstream liberal media is roasting up Joe for it. So without further ado, let's react to it in the year that Joe Biden has had.
How about the Democratic end of things? Joe Biden seems poised to be the Democratic nominee. What kind of year has he had politically? Well, again, he started 2023 coming off those good midterms for Democrats, and his approval rating, 46-50, wasn't that bad, but it's taken a hit this year. And as we start to close out the year, our final NBC poll had him at just 40% approval, 57% disapproval. How does this compare to past presidents entering their re-election year? Here you can see it. Here's the 40 that we have Biden at right now. These are all the final polls heading into the re-election year that NBC conducted. You just see all the recent presidents. Look, Trump got beat in 2020. He was at 44 heading into his re-election year. Bush Sr. got beat in 92. He was at 52 and heading south rapidly there. But you see how that number compares. That's the lowest. That's the lowest in an NBC poll for an incumbent facing a re-election year.
Yeah, so for me personally, I find it hard to believe that Joe Biden's at 40%, right? I find it hard to believe that 40% of the people in this country approve of Joe Biden's presidency and the job that he's done, right? I mean, there's no way, right? Absolutely no way. Again, this is an MSNBC poll, so they are probably giving him a little bit of home cooking here, okay? So take this with a grain of salt. But even MSNBC, right? Even MSNBC is roasting Joe Biden for the disastrous year that he had in 2023, which tells you everything you need to know.
Here, but it is a tight race when you poll Biden versus Trump. At the start of the year, in the average of the polls nationally, Biden had a 2-point advantage. Now, at the end of the year, it is Trump who, on average, has a 2-point advantage here. It's a very, very close race, obviously. And what are the concerns of voters? The dynamics we'll be talking about if this race does materialize. Joe Biden, of course, is the oldest president ever at this point. And his fitness, his age, about 3 in 4 voters in our poll say it's a major or moderate concern. Big thing in 24 is going to be Trump's legal situation. Are there convictions? What goes on in the courtroom for him? 62% right now say that's a major or moderate concern for them. Would that number change if there's a conviction? Would that number change based on how these cases start to sort out? Big question, obviously, we'll be following well into 2024.
So let's go back here, because you notice how they skipped this, right? You see this part right here? 60% Biden's awareness or involvement in Hunter's business dealings. Again, it's amazing how MSNBC didn't highlight that, because think about this. Think about how crazy this number is, guys. 60% is a major / moderate concern for people. That's only 2 percentage points lower than Trump's trials and his criminal trials or whatever, right? So think about it. Think about this. How much has the mainstream liberal media covered Biden's business dealings overseas compared to how much they sit around and they talk about Trump's indictments and his potential criminal trials? Think about the disparity in coverage, but despite the disparity of coverage, Trump's criminal trials only are 2 percentage points higher in regards to a major or moderate concern than Hunter Biden's and Joe Biden's business dealings. That tells you everything you need to know about how people feel about the Biden crime family and the accusations against them. Again, it's amazing. It's funny how they didn't highlight that in this poll. He just kind of skipped over that, but that's a major thing, right? That is major. And that's why I try to tell you guys, with Republicans, if they actually were competent, okay, they would have Joe Biden be impeached, and they would have the Senate trial in the middle of Trump's trials as a counterbalance, as a distraction from what is going on with Trump's trials. Because the American people, based on polling, seem to believe that Joe Biden, even though, again, Joe Biden won't be found guilty because Democrats clearly are not going to vote, to remove him from office. But at the same time, it shows that it can be used to continue to hurt Joe Biden going into the 2024 election.
Following well into 2024. And this is interesting, too. There is clearly what this ballot question is showing you here is matching Trump against just a generic Democrat. Trump loses sizably. Matching Biden against a generic Republican. Biden loses by double digits. It's just showing you broadly there's not a big appetite for Trump versus Biden, even though it seems that each party, at least as we enter 2024, is poised to go in that direction. And that leads to this final graphic here, a poll from the Wall Street Journal recently. They included a bunch of third-party options, and against Biden and Trump, they added up to 17%. That's a big question heading into 2024. Is there going to be a real third-party candidate to create a wild card in this?
And see, this is why I told you guys when RFK declared that he was going to run as an independent. I told you guys that he's going to take away more votes from Joe Biden than Trump, right? And the reason why is because Trump actually has a base of voters that are going to vote for him no matter what, that actually like him. Joe Biden does not have a base of voters that actually like Joe Biden, right? Unless they are paid influencers, right? The only people that stomp for Biden and Kamala Harris are quite literally paid influencers, okay? If you're not a paid influencer, you're not a big Joe Biden fan, okay? The only reason people voted for Joe Biden in 2020 is because they hated Trump, not because they like Biden. And that's why it was easy for me to come out here and say, yeah, well, if, Kennedy's in the race, he's a Democrat, right? And ultimately, at the end of the day, he's going to take more votes from Democrats than he's going to take away from somebody like Trump. And lo and behold, this is what happened. I mean, that was an easy thing to predict. It seems as if, again, with Kennedy in the race, it seems more likely that Trump will win, considering that Kennedy is taking more votes away from Joe Biden than he is from Trump. And then also you have the Israel-Palestine situation. You have the fact that Joe Biden is turning off a lot of progressive voters who would show out and vote for him. However, people are not nearly as Trump deranged as they were when he actually was in the White House. Okay, even though there is still quite a bit of Trump derangement, but I think a lot of people are realizing that, hey, things weren't that bad under Trump. I might just not vote, right? Even though I don't like Trump, I might just not vote, or I may vote for Trump. But yeah, I mean, you have a lot of progressive voters that are saying, well, I don't see a reason to vote for Joe Biden because he hasn't been woke enough. And then on certain issues like, again, Israel and Palestine, they don't like his support for Israel. So they're basically abandoning Joe, right? You're saying that Joe's support among young people is significantly declining. Yeah, I mean, things don't look good for Joe going into 2024. Okay, and we'll see if he's able to recover. I don't think so, right? I hope he's not able to recover, but we will see. Anyways, let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.